Hey Wonderland, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Ali. I'm a content creator who supports indie games, and this channel is all about Metroidvanias and platformers, as well as monthly pickup videos and unboxings. I have an announcement. I am now which is really weird to say, I'm a writer for GamesReview.com, and have my first article written, which happens to be basically this video, which is on Blasphemous 2. So I did a review on Blasphemous 2 after having the privilege to play it before you guys. And I have to say, I was not disappointed at all. This is a really good Metroidvania. I really think that if you are not a fan of the first one, you're definitely going to fall in love with the second one. Now, of course, you do not have to play the first one to enjoy the second one. However, if you want to understand the story, the lore, the background, and understand Custodia and the Penitent one, I do suggest you go and you play the first Blasphemous before going into the second. With that said, I think that people who are not big fans of the first game, especially because it was so much more rigid, so much more heavier in the control system, will love Blasphemous 2. So I'm going to go right into the review, and I hope that you guys make a decision of picking up this game, because honestly, I fell in love with it. So here we go. So if you wanted a Metroidvania that actually did it right, I'm going to tell you that Blasphemous 2 did it right. And the reason I say this is because not only did they improve in the exploration, the map, the environment, the graphics, the audio, not only did they improve in all of that, they also improved in the weapon system, in the ability system, in the attack system. It has gotten to the point that it got so much better in aspect of being able to touch many different types of players that I feel like this was a perfected pixelated Souls-like game. Now, if you don't know what Souls-like is, it is basically a subgenre of a role-playing and action-adventure game with high levels of difficulty and emphasis on environmental storytelling, typically in dark fantasy settings. There is an unforgivable death, I guess you can call, system where if you die, you lose, I call it, part of your soul, and you have to go retrieve it before you continue on, or you basically lose whatever that is. For example, obviously in Blasphemous, you lose the Tears of Atonement, and if you played the first game, you know that the Tears of Atonement were your currency. So a lot of the times, many people, when they pick up a Souls-like game, I feel like they are more susceptible to just drop the game because of how challenging it is. A lot of the times you see this happen in games like Dark Souls. And for me personally, Blasphemous 1 was that game that, not that it was challenging with the bosses, for me, Blasphemous was challenging with the enemies in the environment, the platforming in the environment, as well as figuring out the good ending of the game. I thought it was very difficult to understand. I didn't really know, where to look for the good ending or even how to get to that point. There was no hints. There was no, you really had to explore and try again. And a lot of the times to try and try again means you would have to open up multiple game files. And I just thought that that was very, difficult to perceive. It was very difficult to achieve, and it was not something that I wanted to try. So for me, Blasphemous, the first one, while I did love the entire aspect of Custodia, the Penitent one, and its lore, I did not enjoy it for many other details, such as figuring out the pathway to the good ending. And also the amount of times that I died through platforming in that game was, I can't even remember, but it was over 30. Now, comparing that game to Blasphemous 2, I feel like a lot more gamers who have never played a Souls-like game and who decided, like, let's say tomorrow you decide to pick up Blasphemous 2, even though it's the second game in the series, can you start from it? Yes. Yes, you can. Why is that? Because the story is completely different. It is not anything to do with the ties of the last story. However, there is still a continuation of lore. There is still a continuation of Custodia and its people, and if you do want to know the background of Blasphemous and who the Penitent One is, I do suggest you play Blasphemous 1 before you get into Blasphemous 2. With that said, I'm going to go right into the gameplay of Blasphemous 2. Blasphemous 2 begins its journey sometime after the final DLC of the first game. I assumed that we were not going to see the Penitent One in the first game. I thought that it was going to be a completely new character and that we were going to have a whole different story. However, you begin the game waking up as the Penitent One, and you just find out that there is a mission ahead of you where you have to find something known as the Miracle, which is about to give birth, and as the Penitent One, you must stop this. So as a result, you're awakened and you start the game. Now, the lore of the game is very difficult to understand. It is comparable to that of games such as Hollow Knight, such as Ori, such as many other Metroidvanias, where we don't really understand what is going on, but we have to explore the entire map and the entire area, especially secrets in the game and maybe hidden walls and areas, just to figure out what is going on in Custodia and what is the lore of this game. The battle system and abilities of this game, there's a few different changes. So you begin the game by being offered 3 weapons. It doesn't matter which weapon you choose, only that this reflects on the path you will take in the beginning of the game. You will eventually uncover the other 2 weapons, so it doesn't matter which weapon you choose from the very beginning. Just keep that in mind when you choose that first weapon, because depending on what you choose is how either easy, how challenging, what abilities basically you're going to open up with these weapons, because each weapon has a different ability. For example, one of them may activate mirrors, or the other one may hit the bell that you see scattered around, and that bell reflects on the platforms that are hidden, and they open up these platforms. So depending on the weapon, this is the path you take to start the game. This is what your story becomes. Everyone, I guess, starts with a different story, a different path, depending on the weapon they choose. And obviously for me, when I had to choose the weapon, I ended up having to choose Ruego al Alba, because Ruego al Alba, I felt like it was an easier type of weapon. It wasn't too fast and it wasn't too heavy. It was perfectly fine, kind of like we're going with the Goldilocks and the 3 little bears, and you know, one is just right. So that was right for me. I chose it. I went into the game with a single-handed blade, and honestly for me, it kicked a powerful punch. I was still able to hit the enemies. I was able to block the enemies, which for me was important. I really want to know how to parry in the game. And on top of all of that, you know, it wasn't as challenging for me because I hate heavier type of weapons, the ones that are slower and don't, even though they pack maybe a better punch and they probably take out more health from the enemies, I feel like I need something fast-paced at the beginning of the game. So for me, Ruego al Alba was perfect. You also have the ability to upgrade your weapons, just like when you'd find the Mea Culpa shrines in Blasphemous. The only difference is you no longer have to find these altars, and you can upgrade your weapon abilities right from the menu screen. However, instead of spending Tears of Atonement like you were doing in Blasphemous to upgrade your abilities, you now spend something called the Marks of Marty Drum, which you receive after killing around 40 enemies. And depending on the amount that it costs for your abilities, you're able to use these marks on these abilities right from your menu. There are many other ways to strengthen your abilities. For example, we see the rosary beads return in this segment, which works very similar to the previous game. as well as the prayers from before. So if you remember, like in the first game, we had thunder attacks, fire attacks, teleporting, etc. So all of that returned from Blasphemous to this Blasphemous 2. There's also shorter abilities that work like prayers. They're called chants. Unfortunately, I didn't even utilize them, so I don't really know how strong they are or how they work. You know, if you guys end up utilizing them more than I did, let me know in the comments below how that went for you. For me, personally, I went with the regular abilities because I'm used to the prayers. I've done them in Blasphemous 1. So for me, this was just, I guess, a matter of routine. So there is new buffs in this game, which basically increase your attack, your defense, your fire defense, your thunder defense, etc., which is something called the altar piece of favors. Basically, those are statues that are placed in these altar pieces, and when you place them together, depending on what stands next to each other in this altar, there's like a different combination of patterns that you can create that change the different, I guess you can say, abilities. And this is done by finding these tools scattered around, obviously, the environment, and then brought to someone called the Master Sculptor, which you find very early in the game, and he explains everything to you there. The game is definitely challenging, very challenging actually. So when I said the first game for me, it was more challenging in platformers and going through the enemies on the map, this game is challenging all around. So do not expect a very forgiving game. There is no difficulty level in the very beginning, so you do not have the ability to change that. There is, however, a lot of different combinations of attacks, and depending on what you utilize with the weapons that you find, there is so many different ways to beat a boss. I remember the first boss that I beat, I used a lot of prayer mixed in with a lot of combination attacks while the prayer was activated. So depending on what you decide to do, that is how you are going to defeat the boss. It is not easy. It is very challenging, and I died so many times that I actually thought this game is going to basically destroy me. And if you know me, I like to throw my controller sometimes out the window, and this game definitely made me want to throw my controller many times out the window. So get ready for a very challenging, very difficult game with a lot of exploration, a lot of puzzles. This time it isn't just platforming and hack and slashing. This is also a puzzle game where you basically have to utilize your brain. So for example, there might be a point in the game where you would have to activate a trap, and that trap activates a door, and then that door opens, and you need to get to the other side of the room in order to pass the door before it closes. So you definitely have to rush from like one side of the room to another side of the room in a very short period of time before that door closes, and you have to overcome lots and lots of enemies as you do so. So it's not very easy. You know, there was moments where I really thought that I wasn't going to make it. I think that it's a lot more challenging for sure. So, you know, if you like the challenge, if you like combat, if you like exploration, you know, and games with puzzles in them, I think Blasphemous 2 is definitely something you should pick up. Now, the graphics, the environment is very Spanish folklore and religious influence. Blasphemous 2 incorporates a dark and mysterious environment, drawing inspiration from music, literature, poetry, and painting sculptures. The Game Kitchen created this intricate world that explores the religious faith and the Spanish culture and made a world worth exploring. So you will find certain named areas of the game to be very direct areas of Blasphemous 1 with similar environments and enemies, which I thought was really great. So if you remember Blasphemous 1, I don't want to spoil the areas because I want you to discover them on your own. But going through the same area again, just a little bit more advanced, kind of like showing that over time Custodia advanced, and not just technology, not just in literature and poetry and music, but also in sculpture and architecture and location. So it looks as if it was changed over time. The city has been, the city progressed, it became different. This all is just so nice to see. It makes the world changed, but in a good way. So, Custodia, it's this beautiful, inspired by Roman Catholic architecture. Everything has been improved in this game. Even the cutscenes have become beautifully colored, pixelated art. It has a lot more gore. It has a lot more blood. It was very eerie. This is everything that we expected from a true dark fantasy game. So this is definitely, if you're a fan of dark fantasy, Blasphemous 2 hits all of the right spots. And then, of course, the music is just so beautiful. I stood in the middle of the city and I was just listening to the strumming of the Spanish guitar, and I was just falling in love with the music. Carlos Viola, he even said he used a wider range of instruments, and you can really listen. Like, if you stand there just like I did in the middle of the map, you will hear the various different instruments get together. It's just so beautiful that Blasphemous 2 really does a great job in everything all around. So, with all of that said, I probably ranted like all over the place, but if you understood the gist of my review, that's great. If you didn't, I will link down my article from Games Review. I think it sums it better in a way. But if you understood all my ranting, because I'm so excited for you guys to try this game, I'm going to let you guys know the comparison to Blasphemous 1. I must have mentioned it already a couple of times throughout the entire review, but again, I want to emphasize, many people complained of the rigid controls and heavy battle system in Blasphemous 1. They would compare it to fast action-packed controls like Hollow Knight or Ori. As a result, many people who never picked up a Metroidvania and ended up starting with Blasphemous, they might have dropped the game and decided that Metroidvanias are not for them. Well, that is because with its unforgiving Souls-like battle system and its heavy controls, Blasphemous 1 was not for the beginner Metroidvania player. However, Blasphemous 2 makes everything right from the very beginning. From being able to start with the weapon of your choice, to the smooth controls and easy attacks, Blasphemous 2 really supports even the beginning Metroidvania players. So if you've never played a Metroidvania, you can start with Blasphemous 2. Just remember, it is more challenging. The bosses are unforgiving. It is difficult. But if you're in for a challenge, if you're okay with the fact that it's challenging and it's difficult, then definitely try with a Metroidvania like Blasphemous 2. It's got everything. It is just a well-rounded, well-created Metroidvania. And honestly, this is what shows us what developers who really love doing what they do, this shows us that if they do something from start to finish perfectly and they work hard, perfection can be achieved. Blasphemous 2 is just a beautiful game all around, and I recommend everyone to pick up that game August 24 at midnight and get on to playing it. You will love this game and you will love Custodia. And if you've played Blasphemous before, you will love the continuation of the story in Blasphemous 2. I am really impressed by how beautiful Blasphemous 2 is, and I know many will feel the same way once they pick this game up. There you have it, guys. That is my review on Blasphemous 2. Now, everybody's going to have a different opinion about a Metroidvania. Some might not like it as much as others. For me, it's really hard not to please me when it comes to a Metroidvania, because I just love this genre. It could be any Metroidvania and I'll all of a sudden be like, I like it, except for maybe Metroid Dread, because like I'm a chicken and yeah. But otherwise, if it's something like a Metroidvania, even if it has like shooting involved, it's really hard not to get me to like the game. Eventually I get trapped in the world and the battle system and the enemies, and I'm done. I have to finish it. With that said, I have played games like Ghost Song, which I couldn't really finish because I felt it was just extremely challenging, and the shooting aspect really didn't get me. So I do have some Metroidvanias that I am a little bit more not towards, that I don't really, like, it's in my not so wanting to play pile. Blasphemous 2 just went from, I don't even know, I think I'm putting it up to Hollow Knight and Ender Lilies, because those are my two favorite Metroidvanias. So Blasphemous 2 just went whoosh all the way up. I think it just beat Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. Honestly, I don't know. I have to continue playing it. I still want to get it 100%. I will be streaming it on Twitch after August 24. So after my video gets released, you guys are going to see me streaming it, because I just want to share the love of Blasphemous 2 with everyone, especially maybe people who don't want to play it themselves but want to see it. So yeah. So thank you so much for joining me on this video. I'm overwhelmed with joy. I started writing these articles. I think that I will be writing a lot more on Metroidvanias in games review, so stick around for some of my articles, more videos to come, more projects in the works. So I'm really excited to share this hobby with you. This is exactly why I created this channel. So thank you so much for all of your support. If you're not following me on Twitter, I will link it down below. I share a lot of updates, a lot of news, a lot of pickups. I also have a Discord where I hang out with my family, so definitely come and give me a follow there. Again, thank you for your support. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate that you subscribe and hit that like button. It helps the girl out. I'm beating the algorithm, but it's not working, and I really want more people to see the love and joy I have in these games. So that would really help me a lot if you do. Thank you for joining the Wonderland family. I look forward to making more content for you guys, and I will see you all next time. Take care.